like I should be an alum because I've had so many opportunities to spend time with some of your students and your faculty over the last 3 years now. So thank you, Maria, for the invitation. I am so glad to be here. It's interesting, when Maria reached out to me and said, hey, I'd love for you to come and be our keynote. Are you available? And I'm like, let me check my calendar. Yes, I'm available. So I said yes. And at the time, it was called the Women's International Dinner. And then it quickly changed to the Women's Empowerment Dinner, which was fantastic. That's more up my alley. I was going to have to really make up some stuff to fit for the other one. But it's amazing how when you know you're about to talk about something, and you've probably had this experience, all of a sudden you see that term everywhere. I mean, everywhere. I was at the gym, at the Y, the person teaching the class had empowered down her shirt. And then what I also realized is in my office, my home office, I have this black mug that sits on my bookshelf. And it's directly in my field of vision anytime I'm sitting at my desk. And this mug happened to be a gift. But I never really noticed it. You know, those gifts you look at and you go, oh, that's cute, that's pretty. And you put it on the shelf. But all of a sudden, now that this is a thing, like empowerment is a thing, I really looked at this mug. And this mug is a black mug, and it has in gold and white letters, empowered women, empower women. And I thought, what a clever gift. And what a thoughtful gift. Because as I looked at it, it reminded me of what I am called to do. Empowered women, empower women. And so if you are here tonight, I am assuming that you are either still needing to be empowered, or you are already an empowered woman. But before we go too far down the path, I think we need to all get clear on exactly what empowerment is. So, 2 definitions I have for empowerment. The first one is authority or power given to someone to do something. That's empowering. The second definition, the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's rights. Empowered. Now, based on these definitions, I want you to consider the following 2 questions. The first question, are you waiting to be empowered, or will you be the one to empower? The second question, will you be one of, or will you be the one? In her best-selling book, Becoming, who's read that? Excellent book. Michelle Obama said, if you don't get out there and define yourself, you'll be quickly and inaccurately defined by others. We've all seen the memes, and some of us, or some of you around my age, some of you have probably had the experience of where the perception of an act is a little bit different when a man does it versus a woman. For example, if a man runs a team, he commands results and he pushes for results, he's considered what? A really good leader, right? A woman, same command of the room, drives hard for results. What is she deemed as? Aggressive, a female dog. Okay? That is usually what that's how we're labeled. Now, is that fair? All things being equal, is that fair? No, it's not. But it is reality. It is reality. I was invited to a meeting the other day to meet with this board of an organization that I'm working on a project for. My husband happens to be on that board, and I was going to present an update on this project. And so we got home later after I had done my presentation. We got home later, and my husband mentioned to me that one of the men came up to him after the meeting and said, man, she's tough. And so I was like, what? Tough? Okay, well, what was tough? I presented a very logical presentation with next steps and expectations for the group. I didn't understand what was tough. And honestly, I was a little bit offended because I couldn't decide if that was really the perception I wanted. But then I decided, I don't mind being tough. I don't mind being labeled tough because it sets the expectation. And what I have discovered over the years is I have the power to control my own narrative of how people perceive me. And so this seemingly innocent comment made by this man caused me to self-reflect. So a few weekends ago, I had the pleasure of being a facilitator for the lead organization's Namaste event. It was their 2019 event. This is the third year. I'm proud to say I have been a facilitator for all 3 years of it, so I've been on the journey. And at this retreat, because it was an overnight retreat this year, at this retreat, we do this mirror exercise. And initially you break into your small groups. You have a hand mirror. You turn the mirror to your small group, and you say what you believe people say about you or what they have said about you. You then turn the mirror to yourself, look at your own reflection, and you offer positive affirmations of who you are or who you want to be. It's a great exercise, and as I was thinking back to my time with my group, I was thinking, what did I say to them? And I said, I believe that people would say that I'm smart, that I'm articulate, that I'm short, all accurate, by the way. But you would be surprised how many people it takes a long time for them to figure out I'm only 5 feet tall. But that's all right. But then I took it a step further, and I said, what do I say to people about myself? And so if any of you have been around me for any period of time, and most of you don't know me, but Dr. Kyra can probably attest, you have probably heard me start a sentence with, now I'm a smart girl. And I usually say that when I'm about to finish the sentence with something either I think I should know, or I think you think I should know. And so I'll say, now I'm a smart girl, so I can't believe I missed that detail. Now, what am I saying? Despite my mistake, I'm still a smart girl. It was just an oversight. So I'm establishing the narrative. Now, there are a lot of terms that sometimes, not all men, my husband is not one of them, and I see some lovely men in the audience. I'm not men bashing tonight. Glad you're here. But there are a number of terms, if we think about establishing the narrative, that we've heard men use to describe women. Right? We know the terms. You don't need me to say them. I can't say them anyway. But you don't need me to say them. The problem is the terms that are in your head are also the same terms that women use to describe women. So we are perpetuating an already poor but well-established stereotype. We're tearing each other down at a time when we really should be building each other up. So you can change the narrative. How do you change the narrative? The first way is to make a conscious choice not to degrade other women with our mouths. Some people really struggle with that. And even though we say, oh, I'm just kidding, or I just call her that, she's okay with it, it's degrading. And it's perpetuating the stereotype that we don't need, right? But the second way is to make a conscious decision about how you want to be personally perceived. How do you want people to see you? And how you are perceived is based solely on your identity. Who you are or who you think you are. Which begs the question, do you know your real identity? Do you know and exhibit who you truly are deep down, or are you wearing the mask of what others expect you to be? Something to consider. Early in my career, I told everybody that I thought needed to know that I wanted to be a vice president. Now, I didn't really care which company. You heard I worked for a lot of companies. I didn't care which company, I just knew I wanted to be a vice president. Now, why did I want to be a vice president? This is the participatory, that part. Why do I want to be a vice president? Have some authority. What else? Money, recognition. You know what? Because it sounded good. It sounds good. Who doesn't want to be the vice president of somebody's company incorporated? I was expected to want to climb the corporate ladder. And for a long time, I thought that's what I wanted as well. But about 18 years into my career, based on some experiences, I realized I don't really love managing people. Good thing to learn. I love coaching people, but I don't like the responsibility that comes with actually managing people. And that was what was required at that next level. You know, the more responsibility you get, the more people you get. Okay? And so, but what I knew all of that, but what I also realized was that the only reason I really wanted that vice president title was so that it would validate me for the things I really wanted to do that were outside of corporate America. That was really my reason. And so at that pivotal point in my life, which was when I turned 40, for those of you who are young, hopefully you'll get it sooner. But at that pivotal point in my life is when I really started to understand my own personal identity. At my church, March is themed Identity Month. And this is the month when our pastor, literally every Sunday, he preaches on identity. And I love this month because it gives me an opportunity to self-reflect and really think about if I am living my true self. And a few Sundays ago, he made what I thought is a very profound statement. He said, sometimes your identity is labeled not by what others see in you, but instead by what they need you to be. You dumb down to a lower level because of what someone else needs. When we don't know who we are, we fall into the trap of being shaped by our environment. We allow external forces, outside forces, to define who we are. It's really a no-brainer. If you don't establish your own identity, it will be established for you. There's a concept called imprinting. Who's heard the term imprinting? If I asked you for a definition, can you give it to me?
Something about like ducks and the ducklings that follow the first duck they see and think that that is their parent?
Yes, something like that. Something like that. So in psychobiology, imprinting is a form of learning in which a very young animal, could be a duck, a very young animal fixes its attention on the first thing that it has a connection with, either visually, auditorial, or tactile, and it follows it. So in essence, it follows the thing that looks like it thinks it should look. I'll say it again. It follows the thing that looks like it thinks it should look. How many of you have seen the movie Mowgli? Oh, it's like, yeah, I have. Yeah. Jungle Book. Oh, come on. Have you read Jungle Book? Okay, all right. Let me bring you up to speed. So, for those of you who don't watch TV or read Jungle Book. So, the Jungle Book / Mowgli story, same story, just now on Netflix, okay, with a cool title. So, the story is about a young baby boy, who ends up being raised by wolves when his parents, his human parents, are killed by a tiger. And so he literally does everything that wolves do. He's being raised by wolves. So even though he has 2 legs, 2 arms, he even runs like wolves, because that is a mirroring of the people that he, or the thing, the animals, that he's around on a daily basis. The animals in the jungle realize that Mowgli is not a wolf, but Mowgli is so caught up in this environment that he has lost all sense of who and what he is. And if he were to reveal his true self in this environment, it would mess up the whole environment. My pastor also said another important thing. He said, you only play the part for survival or identity. And you're only playing the part when you don't know who you are. So if we fast forward to the end of the Mowgli / Jungle Book story that all of you should go home and read, he is ultimately reunited with humans. But as you can imagine, he struggles because he's trying so hard to hang on to this false identity that has been established all of his life. But what he soon figured out is that what's in you doesn't leave you just because you're in the wrong environment. What's in you doesn't leave you just because you're in the wrong environment. Eventually, what God created you to be has to come out, because that's what He needs you to be. So, my husband and I were talking about women's history as I prepared to speak to you all tonight. And he raised a great question. He said, why does there have to be a specific Women's History Month? Like, why can't women's history be incorporated, right? Incorporated into history the way it happened? I thought it was a great question. It's the same question I have about Black History Month, but we can't talk about that right now because that was last month. Okay? But have you ever considered that question? Why are women seen differently? Why are we treated differently? The truth of the matter is we are different, right? We were created to be different. We are different and we are powerful. And we are most powerful when we don't wait to be validated. I knew I was tough long before that man said, "Ooh, she's tough." I have worked on that image all my life. When you're 5 feet tall, you establish some things. But what he said was a validation of my personal branding. But I didn't need his validation. See the difference? So who told you that you need a man to tell you that you're beautiful? You are beautiful. James and I have 2 kids. And they're both in college, as you heard. Michaela and Colin. And for most of their lives, while they were home, probably every day, I would address them at some point by saying, "Hey, beautiful. Hey, handsome." And they would respond as if I had said, "Hey, Michaela. Hey, Colin." Why did I do that?
They become what they hear.
They become what they hear. Well, the first reason was because they are beautiful and handsome. And if you don't believe it, just ask me. But yes, it's positive reinforcement. I needed to instill in them some things before anybody else could tell them something different. And it wasn't just beauty, it was smarts. It was all the things that I knew they were going to need. We have to change how we see ourselves. Because nobody is going to be able to sway them. Nobody's going to be able to tell them they're not beautiful or handsome. We've already established that. What else you got? Right? So who told you that you have to follow the same career path as a man to get to the same place? That's what people would try to tell us, right? This is the way we have to go. Create your own unique path. And that becomes the standard. Who told you you can't be a doctor or a lawyer or all of these great things because maybe your parents didn't go to college or you don't have other family who's been to college or finished college before? What I say to those people that I mentor is study hard, make great connections, and you be the first. Who said you have to ask for permission? Stop waiting for permission to do something great. What do we say about asking for permission? Ask for forgiveness later. Do it and ask for forgiveness later. Michelle Obama said, "There's no limit to what we as women can accomplish." But I would add to that by saying, but it's going to take some work. When I named my company the Empowered Speaker 12 years ago, I didn't give it as much thought as I would love to stand up here now and say, "Oh, I really thought this through." I didn't think it through. I was just thinking about, I need to empower some people to buy some product so I can make some money. That's exactly how I thought about it, okay? But now, years later, the name that my girlfriend and I went round and round and round on trying to make it just the right name means so much more. Because the empowered speaker means having a voice. It means giving a voice to others, whether it's through public speaking training, whether it's through coaching people to conquer their fears. It means having something to say that builds people up. and leads them down a path that ultimately gets them to their destiny. So now I know that I am empowered to lead. I know I'm empowered to be happy. I know I'm empowered to change. I know I'm empowered to be the change. I know I'm empowered to challenge. I know I'm empowered to challenge the status quo. I'm empowered to do all these things and more. But with great power comes great responsibility. Who's heard the name Malala? Raise them high, be proud. All right. Malala. Malala is a Pakistani, very brave Pakistani girl, woman, who at the age of 15 was shot point blank in the head for speaking out for women's rights to education. Lived to tell the tale. And so she is also the youngest Nobel Prize laureate. If you've not heard the story, go on Oprah's Soul Conversations, Super Soul Conversations. It's a little 30-minute segment. She's amazing, okay? But what she said was, I raise up my voice not so I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. No one achieves long-term success by themselves. We may start off as a one-woman show, but it will not last. You will stall, because there's only so much capacity. One person only has so much time. You only have so much willpower. You only have so much money. At some point, you're going to reach your personal ceiling if you don't collaborate with others. Early in my entrepreneurial career, I tried to do everything by myself because I thought I had to. I didn't have money to pay people to do all these fancy things that people do. And so I shouldered it all myself, which is very stressful if there's anybody who's tried to start a business before. Now, I learned a ton in the process. I learned how to create a website, I learned how to blog, I learned how to set up my legal entity. I learned all these things that I needed to know, because you should never be totally dependent on somebody. You should know how to do it. So I learned all these things, but it took me 5, 6, 10 times longer than it should have, had I just asked for help. Now, I assumed that no one would be willing to help me unless I paid them. And I got burned, even got burned by a few people. The name always pops. I always almost slip and say it because it was so terrible. But anyway, I digress. We're videoing. Don't want to put that on tape. But like I said, I even got burned by a few people. But here's what I've learned over the years. Most people are willing to offer you good advice to help you, lessen that learning curve. Most people are flattered when you come to them and you ask for their wisdom and for their insights. Now let me take a tangent and say, at some point you have to invest in that advice. Because those same people who are giving you that advice also have car payments, house payments, kids in college. So at some point you do need to invest in your personal development. But empowered women understand that it takes a group of women, it takes a group to come together to accomplish great things. Women have the right to vote today because of the women's suffrage movement, which was led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. We have higher education today because of Fatima Al-Fihri, a Muslim woman who pioneered a higher learning by establishing the world's very first university in Morocco in 859 AD. Okay, all right. Rosa Parks. We all know Rosa Parks, an American activist in the civil rights movement. She is considered the mother of the freedom movement and the first lady of civil rights. We have the American Red Cross today because of a self-taught nurse named Clara Barton, who taught other women to be nurses at a time when women did not work outside of the home. And we can't talk about empowering women without talking about Oprah. Really? We have to talk about Oprah. She is dubbed the queen of all media. She was the richest African American of the 20th century and North America's first black multi-billionaire. I'm just throwing out some numbers. Not that impressive, really, in comparison, but She has also been sometimes ranked as the most influential woman in the world. When you get to the place where people just say your first name, you have arrived. You have arrived. I mean, I don't know why I said Winfrey. I mean, like you knew who I was talking about when I said Oprah. But these are big and well-known names. But if you look around the room, there's game changers in here. So don't always put our vision on those people. We have game changers right here among us. And so what do the people that I've talked about, and the people I didn't talk about, and the people in this room, empowered women, have in common? They have what I call the 5 C's. The first, confidence. Empowered women are confident in what they have to offer. Every creation is created with a gift. Steve Harvey said, forget about what you're passionate about. What are you gifted to do? And the gift is that thing that you do with very little effort. And when you are operating in your gift, you are confident. And when you are confident, you are unstoppable. The second C is commitment. An empowered woman is committed to the cause. Now, what does this mean? That means we can't jump on every bandwagon that comes by. And there's a lot of bandwagons. We have to be discerning about what we become a part of. Because an empowered woman is all in. So you can't be all in to 50 things. Okay? The third C, challenge. Empowered women challenge and are challenged. In order to grow personally and professionally, we must be willing to be better, do better, want more, share more, learn more, for the betterment of society and for the betterment of ourselves. The fourth C, courageous. Empowered women are courageous. Courage implies firmness of mind and will in the face of danger or extreme difficulty. Courage does not imply that fear is not present. What it means is that you have the mental resolve to push forward despite the fear. You think the women in the history books had fear? Yeah, they probably did. If they were smart, they had a little bit. They probably did, but it didn't stop them from flying the first airplane. It didn't stop them from freeing hundreds of slaves via the Underground Railroad. It didn't stop them from running for president of the United States of America. These women are powerful. Somebody has to be first. It might as well be you. The fifth C is called. One of my favorite characters in the Bible is Esther. Anybody familiar with Esther in the Bible? So Esther is a Jewish woman who, unbeknownst to the king, to the non-Jewish king, became queen. So during her tenure, the king was duped into signing an edict, a law, an irrevocable law that would allow all of the Jews to be killed on a certain day. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. I said all the Jews, like complete annihilation of all the Jews. So Mordecai, her cousin, who had raised her, implored her to go to the king, because she's the queen, to help save the Jews. And as you can imagine, Esther was nervous. Now, why would Esther be nervous? Why would she be nervous? She's a Jew. Does he know she's a Jew? The big reveal. I mean, he has no idea she's a Jew, so that's the first thing. She has to be called, that's another thing. Read the book, okay? But it's a fascinating story. But so Esther was nervous, but Mordecai responded to her cousin. He says, "Don't think that just because you live in the king's house, you're the one Jew who will get out of this alive. If you persist in staying silent at a time like this, help and deliverance will arrive for the Jews from someplace else. But you and your family will be wiped out." Who knows? Maybe you were made queen for such a time as this. Now, I don't know what each of you are called to do, but perhaps you are here, in this moment, in this time, for such a time as this. We as women have accomplished a lot, yes? Have we arrived? That was not as resounding. Have we arrived? No, we have not arrived. There is still pay inequality for the same work. There is still a poor representation of women in the C-suites of most companies. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because despite our progress, we still have work to do. And in order for things to change and be made better, I need you to participate. We need to participate. Historically, changes happened because there was one brave soul who took a stand. And then all of the others, the one-ofs, rallied around behind the cause. The Me Too movement is a great example of this, where one woman was brave enough to come forward with her story, which empowered other women and some men to come forward with their story as well so that things could start to change. Women owning businesses empowers other women to take a chance on their dreams. Being a woman is bigger than just you. Our job, our responsibility is to make it better. Make it better for the woman next to you and the women to come, so they don't have to have the same struggles that we had, that we have. So as I close, let's bring this full circle. To empower is to give authority or power, correct? We established that at the beginning. So if you are still waiting to be empowered, if you're waiting for someone to empower you, then tonight that is my job, because I am an empowered woman. And what does the mug say? Empowered women, empower women. So tonight, I give you the power to be happy. Tonight, I give you the power to walk and look at your mirror and just stand there and go, all of that. Yep. I give you the power and the authority to take the lead and not always follow. I give you the power to believe in yourself even when no one else does. I give you the power and the authority to be successful, despite what you see with your natural eyes today. I give you the power to believe that anything is possible for you. And most importantly, I give you the power to empower someone else, because that's what empowered women do. You are about to launch new companies for my young people. You're about to launch new companies. You're going to design apps, technology that the world has never seen. You are going to be in front of great people. Your creativity is going to put you in high places. And while all of this is happening, you are going to be unapologetically you, because you know who you are. So I'm going to close with this quote by best-selling author Barbara Kohler-Rose. And it says, "The beauty of empowering others is that your own power is not diminished in the process."